What's going on, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of the Baumbastic Podcast, presented by Natty State Sports and hosted by Andrew Ellis. And when I say special edition, this time I seriously mean it. I say that a lot, but this time it's real because we are live. This is real life. This is real live action here. If I say a curse word or say something I'm not supposed to say, we won't even have time to bleep it out or edit it out. This is the real deal, raw footage. So I appreciate you guys tuning in and joining me for another special edition. Hogs got a game here tonight at 6 o'clock. They are in Tuscaloosa. I do this all the time where I forget to check who it was that said something to me or gave me this idea. But about 2 weeks ago, I was talking on the show about, hey, maybe we want to do this live one day. And someone commented with a really good suggestion and said we should do like a pre-series chat type of thing, do a little, Q&A, just us hanging out, just talking, whatever. And I really like the idea, and it sounded good to me. I've been wanting to do some type of live edition so I can interact with you guys. As I've said on the show many times, like my goal here is just to make your viewing experience just a little bit better. I have a lot of fun watching this team and covering this team and just observing and riding the journey and riding the wave of it. And I know a lot of you guys do too. So I don't ever want you guys to watch Arkansas play baseball and wonder about anything. I want you to know everything and be a real ball knower like I consider myself to be. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Just, like I said, we are live. Any questions you might have, any comments, you want to just yell at me, make fun of my big my big chicken hat, you can do that. This is the place to do it. This is a safe space. So appreciate you guys checking in. And I guess I also should mention, we're doing this live on the Natty State Sports YouTube page, which is, where this podcast began and where obviously we do a lot of our stuff here at Natty State Sports. But if you are not already subscribed, go subscribe to the Baumbastic Podcast in its own YouTube channel. It has its own separate feed now where we do most of the shows. The link is in the description for this. I believe I tweet it out like all the time. If you can't find it, let me know. But I think it should be in the description of this live video. So go check that out now. But as for right now, guys, this is up to y'all. Let's just let's chat. Let's talk some ball. Talk Arkansas, Alabama, John Calipari, whatever it is. I was joking with Curtis and Scotty that they might have to come and kick me out of this studio here in a little bit if Arkansas gets a big commitment, which could always happen. But yeah, like I said, appreciate you guys for joining us. And I guess now is as good a time as any to remind you that we got all kinds of cool stuff going on here at Natty State Sports. Obviously, John Calipari is the head coach of the Arkansas Razorback men's basketball team. So we've been crushing it with that coverage. Curtis and Scotty have been not sleeping at all, been working tirelessly. They just got done doing a really cool live stream right before I hopped in here. So go check that out if you have not. But first, of course, enjoy this awesome content here. So, hey, let's just get right into it. Our boy Bo here has our first comment. He says, hey, can we talk about Jason Jones today? He misspelled his name, but we're going to let that slide. Will he ever make it back into a starting role? Just so much power. Jason Jones got to start Tuesday, which it was good to see him out there. I was really surprised by just how he was kind of phased out of this whole starting lineup, everyday lineup so quickly. And obviously we had him on the podcast here, so I'm a little bit biased here, a little bit not objective. What's subjective, I guess is the term here. I like Jason Jones. I think he's a great kid. I also think he's a really talented baseball player. I mean, this is a dude who coming into his Arkansas career was, it was a battle of whether they were even going to get him to campus because of how highly touted he was as a prospect. He's had his moments. We see these flashes where you see the power, you see the athleticism. The other day when he was playing left field, made a really nice play and come up and fired to second base, just like, look great doing it. Like you see the little visions here. But it just hasn't always been consistent. And at this level and on this particular baseball team where you have like 13 dudes vying for options or vying for a starting spot in this lineup, there's not really a ton of margin for error. And, I think that a lot of us kind of hope that Jason would take that next step. I said it in the preseason, and I thought that the coaching staff set it up to where he would be the guy who would emerge there in left field. Who knows? But for right now, I feel like Will Edmondson has kind of been the guy to beat out there. Now, who knows if Will Edmondson's going to end up getting some starts on the weekend at center field. We'll see. But it seems like right now, Will Edmondson's kind of been the guy leading that competition. Ross Lovich has also been a little bit more consistent at the plate. And I think ultimately, like, corner outfield has to be an offensive position. Obviously, Jason Jones has as much power as anyone on the team, but you have to produce pretty consistently offensively if you're going to be playing a corner outfield spot. Like, it's not like if you're playing shortstop or catcher or something like that. So it's like you really can't afford to have the peaks and valleys, which Jason has had to this point in his career. I would not sell my stock on Jason Jones just yet because I really would not be surprised if one day he just turns the corner and the light bulb goes off. But for now, it doesn't seem like he's going to work his way back into that everyday lineup. Although he did look pretty good Tuesday in his ABs. He drew a couple walks, hit a ball hard to center field. We'll see if he ever gets it going, but doesn't seem like it's going to happen this season. But we shall see. Let's see what we got next here. Mary Ellen Brown, shout out to her in the chat. I see a lot of our Dr. Sauerbaum. We got a lot of veterans, a lot of Baumbastic Pod, the loyal listeners. Really appreciate that. Happy Hagen Smith Day to all to observe. To Hayden, Hayden, shout out to Hayden. I got to meet him at a fine establishment called Parker's Sports Grill the other day. I didn't realize he dipped out before I could even really talk to him. He was like, "Oh, hey man, I love the show." Just took off running out the restaurant. But it was good to meet him. Let's see what we got going on. The GOAT is live. Appreciate you, Tanner Harris. Paul Led. Just got tickets to South Carolina baseball game. Any road trip fan events went on the road? I'll be honest with you. No, not really. I'm not going to be in Columbia for that series. At least I don't think. John has not let me know if he's sending me. I'll be honest with you, though. Last year I went to a lot of games. I went to Starkville. I went to Baton Rouge. I went to the game in Springfield. It's really not there's not like a ton of like scheduled stuff you can do there. I don't know, Arkansas always practices the day before the series in whatever park it is they're playing. I've never attended that. I don't know if that's a thing where they let people like pull up and show up at that thing. If you find out where the team's staying at their hotel, I'm not encouraging you to like stalk them. But I remember like when we were in Arlington, like after every game, it was just crowds of people coming out there to take pictures with folks, get stuff signed. So, like, honestly, man, I hate to say it, but you really just kind of have to go there and see if you can follow around the team and see if, they're usually pretty good about letting you, talk to players, take pictures, get stuff signed and all that. But there's not a ton of, like, structure for that. And even for us in the media, like, we don't even really get that much extra stuff for going. So it's kind of made me not want to travel as much. But South Carolina, you're going to have a fun time at that park. That seems like it's always a fun little road trip there. Shout out to Bohannon here. He said, "I'm here, big dog. Let me hear about a Loy." This is a reference to our Dixon Street Discord that we have popping, which is really, really fascinating. I tweeted out a link to that the other day. Maybe I'll go out and I'll retweet that after the show or something like that. But Bohannon here was asking on our Discord, he was saying, Can I explain the mechanics of how Viva Loy is so good at that over the shoulder catch? Here's the real answer here. He's just cool, man. There's a select few baseball players who are cool enough to pull that off and pull off the basket catches and over the shoulder stuff regularly. And Viva Loy is as cool as a baseball player as you're going to find. I guess it was Willie Mays is kind of like made that famous in center field. But yeah, every time he makes one of those plays, I'm like, I just don't know how anyone does that with any regularity. Although he did let one drop the other day against Ole Miss. But now, yeah, when you're Viva Loy, you just do everything that he does just looks cooler than if a normal human being did it. The other day, I was watching with my girlfriend Hillary. Shout out to Hillary. She might be tuned in on her lunch break. But he hit a home run the other day, and she was like, "Wow, that was a good swing." And she doesn't normally comment when she's watching the games, but she saw Viva hit a home run. I guess it was Tuesday or Wednesday, and she was like, "Wow, that's a good swing." Like, even she was like, "Oh, that guy's cool." Doesn't take a rocket scientist, but that's the key to Viva Loy. There is no physical mechanics. It's just him being cool. Finch0221 wants to know, can we talk about could A. Ellis go yard on Hagen Smith? No, I could not go yard on Hagen Smith. I would love to sit here and just kind of, whatever. They were pinch hitting for me in high school. I was a PO strictly. Even if I played defense, like if I was playing second base or right field, they would DH for me no matter what. I just don't have that pop. I can get the job done here and there. I can lay down a bunt. If you put on a hit and run sign, I can probably hit me a little ground ball through the right side. I just can't elevate the ball. I don't know. I'm like Hudson White right now. I can't elevate for whatever reason. Just the power stroke's not there. But we'll see. Mary Ellen says, this would be a good opportunity to push my Jason Jones propaganda if he were performing this year. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you. And then she follows up and says he hasn't really been as consistent as some of those other guys. And that really is, I mean, she probably typed that right as I was saying it. Yeah, I think we all kind of been like we've been like waiting to push the Jason Jones agenda. It just hasn't happened yet. Will it happen here at Arkansas? Who knows? We'll see. We'll see. Bohannon with a great comp actually right here. Jason Jones reminds him of Jordan McFarland. That is flawless. That is a flawless comp actually. Because Jordan McFarland was kind of the same thing for those that don't remember. Jordan McFarland was like a year or two younger than Chad Spanberger. Big old strong right-handed dude from Illinois. Who was, Chad Spanberger was also from Illinois. So his entire career was like, all right, this guy with this massive power, when's he going to put it together and be a complete baseball player? And he would have little flashes similar to Jason's had where it's like you think he's turning the corner, you think it's going to work out, and it just never really materialized for Jordan McFarland, never was able to kind of lock down an everyday spot. And, I think Jason is kind of in that similar mode here. And I think part of it is the only way to really get better as a baseball player is to play consistently. Like, obviously, you can get stronger, you can get, more athletic, you can get older, more experience and stuff like that. But just having everyday ABs is kind of the only way you take a massive jump as a hitter. And so I think it's just tough for a lot of these guys. I mean, that's, it's not just Jason. Peyton Holt, Jared Sprague, a lot, like some of these other guys. I mean, even Nolan Souza early in the year, he didn't really take off until they finally started giving him just everyday at-bats, and he's able to kind of sink or swim. It's really hard to make a progress as a baseball player, especially a position player, if you're not playing every day. And so I think that, who knows? I would love to, it would be nice in hindsight. We could just be like, hey, just start him every day and live with it and just see what happens. But I think when you have these other guys like Will Edmondson and Ross Lovich, older dudes who are producing a little bit more and a little bit more consistently, it's really tough to go to your locker room and not have that be an issue when you have dudes that are older and maybe more ready to play right away, and they're not playing in place of a younger guy. It just kind of is tough here. Let's see. Believing the Mojo, what is a recommended path to reserve an Omaha trip? Too soon? Tips and tricks? I would go ahead and book that sucker right now. See if you can get a refundable one. Me and Andrew Hutchinson, shout out to Andrew Hutchinson, who covers Arkansas and does a great job. So 2022, we went to Omaha, and it was me, Andrew Hutchinson, Mason Choate, Robert Stewart, and Christian Cheatham, who he works for the university and does some stuff, really good friend of mine. 5 dudes all trying to just like find, we booked one place for 2 days. We got one place for, another night. Then we went back to the first place we went to. It was an absolute mess having 5 dudes cram in one room. You're paying crazy overpriced stuff. The thing I would have to say is like, you're just going to have to, it's going to be a free for all, man. Especially depending on the teams that go to Omaha. We didn't book our trip until pretty late in the process. I'm not even kidding. I would see if you can find a refundable one right now, because I know they do offer those at some point. We might have maybe missed the boat there, but after that trip in 2022, as soon as we got back, Hutch was like, I'm going to book a trip right now. I'm going to book our hotel next year. We're not messing around with all that. And then, of course, Arkansas decided to choke it away and didn't go to Omaha last year. But we were like ready to go. But no, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I mean, I think you just, you gotta book ahead of time. I would stay in Council Bluffs or like Lincoln. There's other options if you don't want to stay like in the heart of Omaha at one of the expensive spots. But yeah, I would just, I would be proactive if you could. And then, yeah, of course, I mean, I'm not saying it's a guarantee Arkansas goes to Omaha, but it's like if there were ever a year to buy your hotel a little bit early, it's probably this year. Dr. Sauerbaum says, I need Peyton Holt like I need air. Well, hey, listen, Peyton Holt, listen, I've been in the Peyton Holt should start at third base camp. I'm kind of souring. I'm wavering on my stance a little bit. Like, Jared Sprague has just been too solid, and I listen, all year from the beginning, you can go back and listen to like the first episodes of this podcast. I was kind of in the Peyton Holt should start camp, and he's had his moments. He hasn't hit for as much power as he did last year in a small sample size. It's been a small sample size last year, small sample size this year. I think he still only has like the one extra base hit, but I mean his numbers for the year hitting are fine. It really just comes down to Sprague is a better defender. That's not like my opinion. That's just a fact. Like, he's a better defensive player. He might be the best infield defender on the team, including Viva Loy. Like, he's as good as an infield defender. DVH in the fall said he was the best defender in the country, which like may or may not be a stretch. I don't know, but listen, don't argue with me on this one. Jared Spraglott is a better third baseman than Peyton Holt, just in the field. Now, I agree with you guys that Peyton Holt is a little bit more offensive, especially like when you're talking about an infielder who, you're not really expecting some of these guys to rake. I think Peyton Holt, if you started him all year, could be that guy that hits around 300, maybe gives you 8 to 10 home runs, clutch in a lot of situations, drives in runs, works, walks. I think he does a lot of those things that you love. The question is, like, is the gap between what Peyton Holt brings offensively more than the gap defensively? And at this point, just in the season, I mean, just pulling up the numbers here, Jared Spraglott's hitting 296 for the year, slugging 469, and has a 441 on base percentage. He's got more walks than strikeouts. I love Peyton Holt, I really do, but it's like I just don't know how you make an argument really and be like, oh, this guy can't be in the lineup. This Jared Spraglott guy who's hitting 300, drawing a ton of walks, had some nice. He's hitting 286 with runners in scoring position, so he's had some clutch hits too. I just don't know why it's like I just don't know the case for like why you have to make a move right now. But we'll see how it plays out. I mean, there's still plenty of time, and DVH has said it a few times, like Peyton Holt, he's going to be a big part of this team down the stretch. As we've seen this past week, we've seen him in right field. The DH spot could be kind of a thing. Who knows? Maybe left field. I don't know. I just think I wouldn't close the door on Peyton Holt just yet. Kingsley, what's good, brother? I love Kingsley very much. Had a great time meeting Kingsley in Arlington. He and his beautiful wife, Takasha. Did I say that right? Takasha? Anyways, GFO Champion Show says, right now, this is not a national championship offense, in my opinion. Can it be? I would like to ask you for clarification on what you mean. Because, like, what do you mean a national championship offense? Like, we've seen some weak offenses win national titles. The one I always reference is Florida 2017, because I feel like they're a nice little comparison for Arkansas. They hit like 259 and weren't even really slugging that much, weren't even really doing a ton of crazy stuff, weren't stealing bases. Pitching usually wins national championships at the end of the day. There's been plenty, I mean, there's been some really average teams win national championships, especially when you're talking about offense. What do you mean it's not a national champ? I mean, look, I'm not saying this is like the best offense in the country, but you don't really have to have, a gaudy offensive lineup that's like, hitting 150 bombs and has a bunch of dudes hitting over 300. But I would say, I mean, if you didn't listen to the other day's show or read my story the other day, I broke down the numbers, and this offense is pretty much better than, and when I say pretty much, in SEC play, they've been better than any of the last 3 offenses Arkansas has had, which includes the 2021 team, which won 50 games, was number 1 overall. You can argue if that team was a national championship offense. I don't know, but they were the number 1 team all year in the country, so it's like, it is what it is. 2022, which is a team that I felt like underachieved a lot during the regular season and then kind of got it going down the stretch. They were a game away from going to the national title, and this group has been better than that group in SEC play. And so it's like, obviously those teams didn't win the national title, so I don't know if you can consider them the national title offenses. But I don't know. I mean, did you watch LSU in Omaha last year? It wasn't like they won a ton of slugfests. The reason LSU was able to get over the hump and win that national title last year, they won a lot of 1-0 games, a lot of 3-2 games, a lot of 2-1s. You have to have elite pitching, and then you have to be opportunistic and score. I don't know. It's interesting. Hayden says we need to coordinate a Baumbastic watch party since we are away again next weekend. So there have been talks about this. There have been talks with some local establishments here in the Fayetteville area, some of our partners, of maybe thinking of a good time to do that, maybe watching games on like Sunday or something like that. I'm all for it. I really do. I love this idea. And maybe next weekend we can really hammer something down. If you're listening, any of you businesses of Fayetteville, hit me up. We might need to get something going. I'm all for that. If nothing else, I'm down to do more live chats like this. Maybe we do like a post-series chat where we just all kind of process it together. Who knows? But yeah, for road games, I would love to do something like that, especially as because I mean, not at Baum, we're not all getting together to watch the games there. I'm all for that. Mary Ellen says she seconds the proposal. What is the news on Cal's recruiting rumors? Michael Prickett wants to know. Good. That's what it is. We'll wait and see. They're probably, I don't know if there's been announcements. I've been away for, I guess, now 30 minutes. I don't know if there's been an announcement or not, but there's, positive news coming on the recruiting front. We'll just say that. This roster is not going to be empty for too long. We'll see. Does DPH have skeletons in the closet? And Hudson Polk is the only one who knows about it, given his midweek DH appearances. Okay, guys, listen. We do this every year where there's like a player. It was Cole Ramage for a long time. I forget who else has gotten these allegations before. I guess John Bolton got him a little bit last year. Listen, Hudson Polk, I don't think Hudson Polk should be getting regular ABs by any means. I definitely don't think he should be getting designated hitter ABs in the year of our Lord 2024 for an SEC team. But it's not like he's playing them that much. He's giving them like a random midweek start here and there, and he gave him a pinch hit spot against Missouri. Now, the pinch hit spot against Missouri did kind of bug me because he pinch hit him for Nolan Souza. And I feel like Nolan Souza, Jason Jones, whoever, Peyton Holt, all of these are guys that could help Arkansas down the stretch. And professionally, respectfully, I don't think Hudson Polk can help Arkansas down the stretch of this season or any of the seasons to come because he's going to be out of eligibility. I am a little bit like, I don't think they should be giving at-bats to him, but it's not like they're like taking away that many ABs. They're just kind of throwing him a bone every now and then. DVH loves Hudson Polk. He's referenced him as a potential future head coach one day, which usually is like kind of telling when you hear stuff like that. But, it is what it is. Shout out to the hottest girl in this chat, Hillary Frank. She says, whoop, whoop. That is my girl. Shout out to her on our lunch break tuning in. Appreciate that. L is a Hall of Fame chatter, by the way. Hall of Fame chatter. I love L so much. L, you were cracking me up the other day whenever you made a comment. I'm not going to go into detail, but you commented and said, bro is yapping the other day, and it absolutely took me out. But he says, Aloy stance reminds me of Ichiro Suzuki. Yeah, Ichiro had a weird, obviously Ichiro's left-handed and all that. I loved Ichiro and, just loved the way he swung. Aloy is kind of like the modern version of that, where it's like, obviously he's not like Ichiro trying to make contact or anything. I don't know. I don't hate the comparison, but I mean, it's like, in my head, I can't even, imagine what Ichiro's... I know he did all this, weird motion. He would always do this weird thing. But in my head, I can't even imagine what Ichiro... Was he that closed in like Aloy? But, Aloy definitely has, I would say a unique batting stance. In fact, I, look at it and I'm like, that can't be the most effective way to swing a bat. But then, it is what it is. John says if I get out of line again, he's going to send me to Hoover for the SEC tournament as a punishment. I went to Hoover in 2022. Really not looking forward, really not dying to go back. I don't hate it. It's not a bad time, but... It's not great. Finch wants to know, as of this moment, projection for how deep we go. Natty or bust. We're in that moment here. I mean, it is what it is. Cole the Bowler says, Souza is by far my favorite player. Just getting Robert Moore vibes from him. Feel like he will be a great draft pick in 2 to 3 years, if not sooner. I love that. I mean, I think he's absolutely going to be a future draft pick. I think he's going to be a lot of people's favorite player here soon. It's interesting you said the Robert Moore comp. So, it's funny. When Robert Moore was at Arkansas, I used to always say, just the way he moved and the way he played, especially in the field, really reminded me of Rick Nomura, who y'all may know as the guy who pretty much got Nolan Souza to campus, as the guy who was his travel coach growing up, obviously from Hawaii, went to Arkansas. And so he saw this prospect coming up and was like, DVH, hey, you got to get this kid on campus. And obviously it worked out. But it's funny because Souza is, like I said, Aloy is the modern incarnation of a dude like Ichiro, kind of the evolution of baseball. Souza is like Rick Nomura and Robert Moore if you gave him HGH. That dude is crazy, man. He's so big. I didn't realize how big he was until he got to campus. I don't know what they list him at on the baseball roster, maybe 6'1", 215 or something like that. He's massive, dude. He's just a big guy. Him and Aloy have got to be the largest human beings ever produced from Hawaii. But no, Souza, I guess I should say, but Aloy too. Both of those guys are going to be playing baseball a long time. Souza, the evolution that he's made since he got to this, like from when he got on campus back in August or September or whenever to now is pretty jarring. Because, I mean, there were times like he's obviously always been talented. DVH was saying in the fall he has as much raw power as anyone on the team. Like, they knew it was in there. But we really didn't see it a ton this offseason, if I'm being completely honest with you. Like, he had stretches there, especially in the fall, where he just wasn't making a ton of contact, was kind of getting overmatched at times by college pitching, had a little bit of a rough adjustment, which like most freshmen do. It's not like a big deal. But I'll be honest with you, like going back, if you go back and listen to some of my pods early in the year, like I spoke okay about him, but I did not have him as a guy who was like, oh yeah, he's going to hit in the middle of the order right away. Like I really just didn't foresee him taking that jump to be in this year's everyday lineup. Man, he's been unreal. So you think about what that kid's going to look like in 2 years. He's going to be bigger, stronger. We saw him in the field the other day on Tuesday and Wednesday playing third. Looked pretty impressive there. I mean, this dude's legit, man. His ceiling is through the roof. Hayden also says Spanberger wasn't Spanberger until his junior year. Maybe Jones needs another offseason. Potentially, fair enough. But it's like I said, like I just feel like ultimately what's going to happen is he's just going to have to go somewhere where he can play every day and just get those reps and figure it out. Because Spanberger had the benefit of being on worse Arkansas teams, if I can just be frank here for a second. Like in 2016, Spanberger was on the worst Arkansas team DVH has had, maybe the worst Arkansas baseball team, definitely in my lifetime. I mean, they were 26 and 29. They stunk. And Chad Spanberger stunk that year as well, but he got every day at-bats down the stretch. He even had a stretch one time where he went 0 for 7 with 7 strikeouts in a doubleheader against Alabama, who Arkansas is playing this weekend. You kind of need to get those ABs and learn from them. And I thought this summer was really important for Jason Jones when he got to go to the Northwoods League and play like 40, 45 games, get those everyday at-bats. It was cool. But I just think he's going to have to go somewhere. And look, I'm not saying he has to go somewhere. Maybe that's at Arkansas. It really might be. I mean, I think first base is going to be a potential option for him. I think DH, I think either outfield spot, like we can make it work. But I just think Arkansas is going to continuously, like, this year's team is loaded, but then we're going to look in the offseason and we'll be like, oh, all these guys are leaving. You replace them with X, Y, and Z, and then they're going to bring in a new crop of transfers, a new crop of freshmen, find dudes from JUCO. Like, they're going to have loaded talent. And so we'll just see how it shakes out. But just given the way that this year has played out, I have a hard time. Like, it's very rare in this day and age where you see it play out that way, where a dude just kind of sticks around for 3 years even though he's not playing every day. But I hope it happens with Jason Jones. I hope it happens with Reese Robinette too, because I think he's a dude who could really make a move here in the next year or so. And speaking of Spanberger, I said this the other day. I think Nolan Souza has Spanberger type power. I really do. I would be surprised if Nolan Souza didn't hit 20 home runs in a season before he leaves Arkansas. He's going to hit like 13 or 14 this year by the time he's done. Would not be stunned if he's there. Let's see. Nolan Souza is just too good to take out of the lineup to get Peyton Holt in there, and JSL is too good of a third baseman. Yeah, it's just an unfortunate situation where it's like, you see Peyton Holt's stats and you're like, oh, he's getting done dirty, but he's really not. It's like JSL has been so consistent and pretty solid. I mean, he had a stretch there early in SEC where he wasn't hitting, but he's been like, I don't know how you can realistically tell that guy, yeah, you're not playing every day. You definitely can't tell Nolan Souza he ain't playing every day. And by the way, I think this weekend I just want to see Nolan Souza get 3 starts. I don't care if they're all 3 DH. I don't care if it's 1 at DH, 1 at third, 1 at whatever. I want to see Nolan Souza in the lineup every day. I'm with you. Kevin Harriman says he has a plug on booking an Omaha hotel. Kevin, we'll be in touch in the coming years, I imagine. But hit that guy up. Appreciate that. So Souza's not a bad defender. I want to touch on this question here. Bohannon says, how much better in the field is Spraglot over Souza? Souza's not a bad defender at all. He can play second. He's played some short here at Arkansas. He's not going to play shortstop, I wouldn't imagine, long-term. I think he's I think he starts at second base. If I just gun to my head right now, my prediction, I think second base is where he'll end up starting. But, I mean, he's a really good athlete who, like, they've thought about playing in center field. Matter of fact, it's a little scoop here for you. The day that Souza came in to record his podcast with me and Jason Jones, I guess that was like a month ago at this point, when we got, I just kind of was like, oh, hey, how are you? They were coming from practice. I was like, oh, how's practice? And Jones was like, oh, Souza, he got some work in the outfield. And it was kind of like the first time they had done that. So that just tells me like they are thinking about ways they can get the best out of this lineup. And I think, who knows how he looked that day in practice. We haven't seen him in the outfield, so maybe he sucked. But he's such a good athlete. They think he could play center field at some point if they needed. Third base, it was good to see him get some reps there. Bobbled one ball there, but it was like he looked like he could play third base. Well, who knows? But I think Spraglott is just such a high-level defender, and he's so well-rounded too. It's not that he has like a crazy arm. It's not that he's like this freak athlete. It's just that he gets to a lot of balls. His reaction time is really high level, and his glove, like you just don't see that ball move around too much. He's really careful with the baseball. I think there's a gap between Spraglott and just about anybody you want to throw over there. Caleb Cali was the everyday third baseman last year, and he ended up being a pretty good defender. It's a completely different level what Arkansas has over there on the corner. Caleb Swiger says, "What's up, playa? What's up?" Collie Hog says, "Dixon Discord, hell yeah, appreciate you coming." Everybody's coming from the Dix. We got a flurry of Dixon Discord comments. Appreciate that. Yeah, it is what it is. The Dixon Street Discord has been popping lately. Matter of fact, I'm about to do it on air. I'm about to tweet out a link to the Dixon Street Discord. Y'all got to pull up and join. Shout out to my boy Scantron, who's a good friend of mine, and he's done a great job of building up him and a few other insiders and guys that I've known over the years who've done a really good job of building that up. I am about to tweet this link out right now as we speak. Everyone go join this Dixon Street Discord. Hold on, where's it at? Copy. Here we are. This is great airtime. Great stuff here. Appreciate everybody listening on podcast. Pitching wins in the postseason. You're right, John Satterfield. Cole the Bowler says the offense is very timely. They show up when it matters. That's true. And I think that's really what it comes down to. It's like everyone always I cite a lot of numbers all the time. We all cite numbers all the time. It really just comes down to like what you do when you get opportunities to score. When you have a runner first and third, one out, can you come through there? When you string together a couple hits, are you able to turn them into runs? And Arkansas has like had their ups and downs at doing that. Like if you look at their numbers in SEC play, they probably should be scoring more. But ultimately what it comes down to with me is like Arkansas consistently has dudes on base, continuously has traffic going on. And I just feel like it's, what they do. It's just rare that you're going to be able to hold them down for several innings at a time. We've seen this offense get shut down for an inning, 2 innings, 3 innings. Pimentel had a nice little 5 innings for Missouri. But usually what happens is they're getting your pitch count up. They're getting you tired. You're forcing to, your teams are having to go to their bullpen earlier than they want. It just seems like even when Arkansas is not scoring, they're making teams work. And it just seems like a miserable weekend of ball, especially when you take into account the pitching that's on the other side, which I feel like every time we talk about the offense, everyone always says, oh, the pitching is really good, but the pitching is elite. I know they're leading the nation in ERA, but it's really that's a very important but there that you're saying. When you're giving up less than 3 runs a game, when opponents are hitting 188 against you, when you lead the nation in strikeouts per 9, strikeouts per walk. Arkansas is also top 10 in fewest walks allowed nationally per 9 innings. So it's there's just such a high margin for error, high margin for error for this offense. It kind of allows them to go deep sea fishing a little bit, it allows them to zero in and look for that big swing that's going to be the 2-run double or the 3-run home run or whatever it is. Yes. Mary Ellen, I mentioned John Bolton on this program a lot. I love John Bolton. John Bolton is my guy, dude. I actually literally saw John Bolton at the Saturday it was a Saturday game against Ole Miss. Had a good chat with him. It was right after Vahiva made one of his first errors of the year, and I just happened to be right in front of John Bolton, and I was like, last year's shortstop, he makes that play. He thought it was funny, but I love referencing John Bolton on this program. L says he loves me, Uncle Drew. Appreciate that. Let's see in baseball. Okay. Kevin Harriman says he just dropped the hotel information on the Discord that I just tweeted out. So go check out that Discord. That really is a fun community. So just getting behind the curtain here a little bit. I used to work for a message board. Spoiler alert for anybody that is not unfamiliar with me before the Natty State. I used to work for a message board, and there were a lot of pros and cons that came with working for a message board. The pro is I had a nice little community of Hog fans to bounce ideas off of, to throw stuff, to promote content, to whatever, just have conversations. We all like talking ball. That's why we're here, is we like talking ball. And so I liked having that, but it was just so many toxic, crazy Hog fans because it was a paid message board. So you just get like the scum of the internet would kind of mix in there. And so like Scantron, who I referenced, a few other people that I really liked talking to on the board, it was hard to even have conversations with them because you had to sift through so much garbage. The Dixon Street Discord is a nice like middle point there where you have that community of people that you can talk ball with, but you also don't have to sift through a bunch of like spam and just weird dudes who are just drunk tweeting. It's just there's just a lot of toxicity on some of these sites. So I really appreciate that Discord. Call the Baller says, I don't wish ill against players, but having Holt might possibly come in handy down the stretch if any injuries occur. Sounds like you're almost hinting at some injuries there, Cole, but I kid. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, listen, like that's ultimately what it comes down to is like, again, it's tough to have a guy like Peyton Holt not in your lineup every day. Honestly, it's tough to have a dude like Jason Jones not in your lineup every day. But what a luxury it is. And if Ross Lovich isn't in the everyday lineup as well, you have like a legitimate left-handed bat, a legitimate right-handed bat, a legitimate power threat. I mean, you've got options on this team in just about every way you can. I mean, even Hudson Polk's had some pitch it. Ryder Helfrich is like the best backup catcher in the country. I'm surprised more people haven't really talked about him lately. He had a rough night the other day. But Ryder Helfrich's a dude that, I still am not sure isn't going to end up having a nice little roll down the stretch for Arkansas. Tanner Harris wants to know, will we see a game where the offense just really breaks out this weekend? They seem to be just constantly scoring 5 to 7 runs, but can we get 10 plus? That's not crazy. I've actually, if you listen to the pod, I've said a few times where I'm like, it would be really nice to just see Arkansas, put their foot down and just hammer someone. I thought it would happen against Ole Miss where there would be a game that just gets out of hand where they end up scoring 15 runs just because of how thin Ole Miss's pitching staff is. I wouldn't be stunned if there was a game this weekend that Bama falls behind early in and they just kind of punt on and throw some dud arms and Arkansas goes off on them. That's really what you need there. The Ole Miss series, most of the games were a little too close for that to happen. So you were seeing like Ole Miss go to their dudes a lot, and Arkansas still scored pretty regularly. But yeah, that's just kind of what this offense is. It's like they don't really string together 3-4 innings in a row of scoring necessarily. It's like they'll wait, and then pounce. Wait, and then pounce. And they're kind of just chipping away. But yeah, I'm with you, Tanner. It'd be nice. Let's get a double digi game for the Pigs this weekend. Let's do it. Let's see what we could do. Yeah, so the one and only JJ says, I'd rather see Holt at third than JSL. I really feel like down the stretch you need a spark plug like Holt. It's hard to disagree because I've said literally that exact sentence like almost on this show where I was like, I just feel like this offense needs a little bit of a spark and Peyton Holt could bring that spark. The thing that is tough here is that Peyton Stovall's return turned out to be the exact spark this lineup needed, and I feel like it's kind of taken them over the top. I would honestly even say Will Edmondson has brought a little bit of a spark down at the bottom half. I remember that Auburn series, he had a couple huge hits with runners in scoring position. I feel like he's been pretty consistent, and we'll see. I think that having a guy like Holt that you can plug in and play whenever, and I mean same thing with JSL if he's not playing. I just think it's nice to have that in your back pocket where it's like you have that, like Eric Musselman used to say this with we're talking basketball here now. Eric Musselman used to say this with J.D. Note and all these 6 men that he would have where he said he really liked as a coach the idea of looking down the bench and knowing that if anything was going awry, he could always send that guy in to kind of spice it up a little bit. I think DVH feels a little bit like that with Peyton Holt where it's like whether it's a pinch runner, pinch hitter, defensive replacement, whatever, or an injury like Cole was trying to will into existence earlier. Yeah, it's like if you have that, it's nice to have a guy like Peyton Holt there. So it's like, I think he's going to end up having moments down the stretch. I'm not saying he's going to start every day, but we have not seen the last of Peyton Holt. We'll see how it shakes out. And hey, if Jared Sprague just stops hitting, you just throw him in there, I thought that it was happening a few weeks ago where Sprague kind of started to taper off a little bit and SEC play wasn't as good. But he was really good last weekend against Ole Miss. What are you going to do? You just got to tip your hat sometimes. And Jared Sprague's been good. I think fans look, I'm with you. I understand why everybody wants Peyton Holt to play. I've wanted Peyton Holt to play multiple times throughout this year. But I also think at some point you just have to give credit where it's due. Jared Sprague has been really solid for Arkansas this year. I'm not saying you have to, that's your new king, but, embrace him a little bit. Hayden says, we have the best offense in the history of baseball after the other team scores in the prior frame. Now, this is a fact. This is just I don't have the numbers on this, but if you just look at all the line scores of Arkansas, they're really good at answering when teams score. Like the other day, they were up 4-1 when Mason Molina was on the mound, and Ole Miss hits a 2-run home run. And immediately you're like, oh, man, 4-3, this game's getting a little hairy. And then Arkansas just immediately scores, completely just takes that momentum right back. And I feel like that's so deflating to other teams. When you are scratching it together, you're kind of chipping away, making your move against a really, really good pitching staff. And then that team's pitching staff, that team with the great pitching staff, gets back in the dugout and just scores a run or two. It just really halts your momentum and does a good job of keeping. And like we said earlier, the margin for error with Arkansas at the plate is so high with this pitching staff. It's really good to just anytime you score a run, it holds that much more weight because teams know who they're going up against here. Let's see. Flying Blind, who is a loyal listener, really appreciate you tuning in, Flying Blind. He says, late to the stream in the middle of class right now. Do you think we still see Will start in center sometime this week? I'm going to say yes. I think Will Edmondson will get one start in center field. Anytime, someone asked me the other day on the Discord, the Dixon Street Discord, shout out to the server once more. They asked me, what's the most, offensive lineup you could go with? And no disrespect to Ty Wilmsmeyer, who's been really, really good defensively and has had his little moments offensively, but he's not an offensive option. So I'd say, if you're thinking of, you're just trying to get as much production offensively on the field as you can, I think it looks probably something like Will Edmondson in center, either Ross Lovich, Jason Jones, Peyton Holt, even whoever in left field, just your most offensive option. Hudson White at catcher, Nolan Souza at either third, DH. I think that's how you would start going about that. I think that Will Edmondson also defensively has been really good when he's been out there in center field. He made two really nice diving plays the other day. I think that was kind of a nice way for him to show, hey, you can put me out there in center field. You can do it. You'll get away with it. It'll be fine. And I think Ty Wilmsmeyer is really one of the better defensive center fielders in the SEC. And I think he's better than Edmondson out there. But I don't think the gap is massive necessarily, at least not massive enough to where it's we can't rule that out as a weekend option, especially with how Will Edmondson's been playing lately. Colin Mayer says, are the baseball Hogs good? Yes, they are good. They are very good, Colin. Appreciate you asking. Appreciate you tuning in. Rojali says, Calipari to Arkansas. Hell yeah. That's right. How crazy is it when Dave Van Horn says we still ain't hitting our peak yet? I'm glad you brought this up, Jonathan, because I've been meaning to talk about. I meant to talk about it on. I guess that was Thursday. Was yesterday Thursday? These days are rumbling together. And I tweeted out the clip of it. DVH kind of stuffed me in a locker on Wednesday after the game. When I asked him, I just was like, hey, people always talk about peaking too early. That's a thing. And, Dave honestly didn't like it. And me and Dave are boys. He loves me. But even though he didn't want to show it in these press conferences, we got to be professional. I feel like that was one of the few times I've kind of rubbed him the wrong way with a question. Because he was like, hit our peak. We haven't even come close to hitting our peak. Offensively, particularly, even acknowledged, he was like, we can't really pitch much better than we've been pitching. But offensively, they still feel like there are guys who are going to produce more. I mean, Kendall Diggs, for example. Kendall Diggs is having a good year. He's having a really solid junior year. He's hitting 284, got 6 home runs, slugging 526. He's had a lot of power production. He could be better. He was better last year. He could be better. And I think that's one guy they have penciled in as one that could probably do more for them down the stretch. Ben McLaughlin I love, and he's hitting over 300. Been really good. I think even he can be better, especially in SEC play. He's drawn a ton of walks and had some little moments here and there. He's been pretty consistent, nice little presence in the middle of the lineup. But it's not like we're seeing he and Kendall Diggs firing on all cylinders. Nolan Souza has been really good. I'm not going to say he could be much better. Hudson White's a dude who could absolutely be much better, and I think he will be much better. So I kind of buy what DVH is saying, where he's like, it's not like we're this team where we're getting every break possible. We're firing on all cylinders. Nothing is going wrong. There's still plenty of room for this team to fluctuate a little bit more down the stretch. And we'll see if they do it. But I could tell that DVH really didn't like that suggestion that they had peaked too early. But I also think it's one of those things like, and I jokingly said like I was trying to give them bulletin board material. I also think it's one of those things where they see all this conversation, they see us talking, and they're trying to keep themselves motivated. So I really appreciate that. Mary Ellen says, this team averages 7-point runs scored per game. In 23, they scored 7.6, and 22 scored 7.1. Yeah, honestly, that's what's funny is like all these Nate Thompson teams, even dating back to 2018 and 2019, which I believe those numbers were more like 8.1, 8.2, 8.3 type of range. But really, like every Nate Thompson team is kind of the same in a good and bad way. Like, and in really mostly good ways. Like the formula is, you have different pieces, different players that fill the lineup. But for the most part, they're going to draw a ton of walks. They're going to hit a lot of home runs. They're gonna make you pay whenever they're gonna have runners on base constantly. They're gonna make pitchers work. They're gonna work the counts. They're gonna strike out here and there. Although this year's team strikeout rate is down a good bit from the last couple years. But yeah, it's a pretty consistent formula where it's like they kind of fluctuate up and down, but the end result is always kind of in that same range. She followed up to say, the difference with this team is they don't have many outlier games. Almost all their final scores are right around the average, whereas previous teams had a little more hot and cold games. 100% for sure. I mean, 2018, by the way, if y'all are not following Mary Ellen on Twitter, I don't have her @ name, but throw it in the chat. Throw your @ name in the chat, Mary, because she's a great follow on Twitter. I've been following her for a couple years now. Loves Arkansas baseball, tweets out stats, just funny content. Like she's a great Twitter follow. And saw her getting diced up by the pitching machine yesterday, or whoever it was that was throwing BP at Baumwalker. But yes, I agree 100% with this point. Even that 2018 team, which is like the team that I would say is the standard for Arkansas baseball, the best team in program history, they didn't win a single road series all year. I need people to really understand that. They did not win a single road series all year, which in SEC play, you play 5 home series, 5 road series. They won the 5 home ones and lost all the 5 road ones. And that's the best team in Arkansas's history. They were very up and down. And they would do that a lot where they would have one game a weekend where they'd score, they'd be like 12-3, and then they'd lose a couple 1-run games. Like they would have their ups and downs offensively as well. 2019, that team might be the best offense Arkansas has ever had overall, just by the numbers, like overall what they finished the year at. But then in Omaha, that team went cold as well. It's like there was definitely a little bit more fluctuation with some of these teams that had some star power, had some really heavy hitters there at the top, but 1 through 9 would have their ebbs and flows a little bit. We'll see if that continues, if this team is just going to be super consistent. But yeah, they're just like consistently pretty good about what they've been this year, which I can appreciate. Let's see. Kim Muckleroy says, "Hi, Andrew. Just saw your live. Excited to watch the Hogs play this weekend. Go Hogs, go!" Appreciate you, Kim. Appreciate you tuning in. She's been commenting a little bit lately. Really appreciate you tuning in. Is Ben McLaughlin the most underrated first baseman in the country? Says Tanner Harris. Dude, I'll tell you what. He was underrated by Andrew Ellis preseason for sure. So look, Ben McLaughlin won a Gold Glove at the JUCO level last year. Or no, 2 years ago, I should say, at Hutchinson Community College, which is turning out to be a freaking wagon. They also produced Will Edmondson. But he played third base there at Hutchinson and won a Gold Glove. And I remember in the offseason watching him play third base, and I was like, what? I was like, this dude's like a below-average defender. Caleb Cowley was a better defensive third baseman than Ben McLaughlin, like just 100%. And I mean, if you watch the team play down the stretch in the NCAA tournament last year, you know I'm not lying there. I don't know what it was, if like just the transition to D1 or SEC, like the third, maybe the surface he was playing on in Hutchinson was better, but he just was never as good at third base, I thought. But then when they moved him over to first base, and he played a little bit there last year in fall scrimmages and stuff like that. I think he maybe even had a few starts there. He's gone up a level, man. He's been unreal defensively. I mean, Arkansas always finds a way to do that. They always have a guy that's playing first base, even though it's not like their natural or their first position, and they're kind of like overqualified for the role. Like you think about Trevor Ezell back in 2019. You think about Peyton Stovall in 2022. I mean, Brady Slavens is, I would say, he was a solid. Like he looked like a first baseman, but even Brady Slavens is like an outfielder who could play some third base as well. Kind of overqualified for the role. Ben McLaughlin fits right in with all those guys. Who knows? I don't know where they rank in terms of if he's like the best they've had or in the top 3 or whatever. But yeah, man, he's been unbelievable there at first base, picking balls, fielding his position well, making these weird highlight plays, diving for the bag like an Auburn. Yeah, it's hard to ask for much more out of that dude. He's been unreal at first base, and he's so consistent offensively, man. Like right now, I guess he's got 29 walks on the year and 17 strikeouts, 1 hit by pitch. I believe right now he leads the SEC in walks during conference play. He's such a consistent factor at the plate, and it's never like he's not toolsy. He's not going to blow you away. He's not like a dude that teams are circling or like, oh, we got to watch out for Ben McLaughlin. But every at-bat, it just seems like he grinds, he fights away. DVH said the other day, like the only time he swings early in the count is if he's barreling a ball up. And, sometimes he'll get out that way, but it's like he's pretty – you know what you're getting out of Ben McLaughlin. Hard to ask for much more than what he's been given for Arkansas this year. Mary agrees. Ball knower Mary Ellen says she agrees. She was worried about his defense before the season. I'm right there. Chris Cheatham wants to know, is that Chris Cheatham the one I was referencing? Is that my boy Christian? Is that you? He said, is Gage Wood back? I think Gage Wood is back, man. What's crazy is Gage Wood obviously started the year in the closer role, gave up a 750-foot home run in Arlington, which kind of set the agenda back a little bit. But dude, if you look at Gage Wood's numbers for the year, it's hard to even tell that he was ever struggling. 1.98 ERA, 23 strikeouts in 13 2/3 innings. Opponents only hitting 216 off of him. With Gage, it's all about confidence and if he can kind of mentally approach it the right way, because we've seen him out there at home in some of these closing situations. He's a bulldog on the mound. He's chomping at the other team. He's staring dudes down. He's walking with that swagger, and you see him kind of walk around. He carries himself like, oh, I can get anyone in the country out. But then you see sometimes you can almost see him second guessing himself out there. I think that home run in Arlington kind of set him back a little bit, where he's a little bit on edge for a week or so there. But I think he's definitely turned the corner here in these last few weeks. I mean, he's a sophomore. He's a true sophomore who pitched a lot last year and had a lot of big-time experience, but he's still early in his career. He's still evolving. His stuff has been as good as it's ever been the last couple of weeks. He touched 96 last week, mixing in multiple different breaking balls. Unreal stuff. And the mentality seems to be kind of back there, too. When we talked to him in postgame after the game, anybody want to go back and watch that presser? He didn't say anything, dude. He was everything, one sentence, got to get better. Got to, job's not done. Got to keep going. After it was over, I was like, dude, Gage, you can celebrate a little bit. You pitched really well, man. You pitched well. Just celebrate. Have a good time, man. You're good. But I think he really I think mentally kind of locked in a little bit. And honestly, Nolan Souza, DVH says, was a similar kind of thing where you go through some adversity, you kind of realize, oh, I need to get a little bit better. Not in a weird way, but just you got to get better. And I think he's taken that onus on himself. It seems like he's turned the corner. Been really, really pleased with what I've seen out of Gage Wood the last couple outings. Kim says someone she didn't think would impress me would be Nolan Souza. He's really stepped it up. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about earlier. You'll have to go back and listen, Kim. He was a guy that was super talented coming out of high school, but not a dude that I really expected to start right away. I just thought this team was too deep, a little bit too talented. I was like, they'll ease him in maybe the next couple years. He's been undeniable these last couple months here. And shout out to my girl Hillary, who showed up. I took her to the Murray State game 3, and that's when Nolan Souza hit his first home run, kind of launched this whole campaign. Then I took her to the Saturday game last week where he hit 2 home runs. Half of his career home runs have come with Hillary Frank in attendance, so might have to just bring her to every game, and we'll see how it goes. Let's see. How cool is it not having to throw a closer twice in a weekend now? Cronin, Tiger, Gage Wood, Cops all had to go twice in the past. Only guy going twice is Big Mac. Yeah, and obviously Big Mac, like you mentioned, is not a dude who's worried about going twice. That dude, he's probably wishing he can go more. I think that's a huge luxury, and I think that's something that they've been very intentional about with Gackle. They had him up in the bullpen. I believe it was Thursday of the Ole Miss series when Will McIntyre was coming out there and pitched the final 2 2/3, and then Stone Hewlett came in for the final out. They had Gabe up and ready to go, but then when Arkansas got that lead to 3 or 4, he sat down, and I think that was very intentional because it's would you rather use Gabe Gackle for an inning on Friday and then maybe you can bring him back on Sunday for another inning, or would you rather just have him throw 2 or 3 innings in a high-leverage spot to close out the series like they ended up doing on Saturday in Game 3? I think that's a huge luxury, and I think this team, what really sticks out to me about this team and this pitching staff, Devin, is They just have answers for every possible question an offense can throw at them. You got a big left-handed power bat. We got Stone Hewlett. He's coming in. He's going to strike him out with 3 sliders. You've got a guy that a guy that can't really hit the curveball. Brady Tygert's on the mound. Gage Wood's coming in behind him. You can't keep up with the velo. Gabe Gackel's going to come in, blaring 97. Jake Faraday 97. Christian Fouch 99. Arkansas's got an answer for that. You're good with velo, but you struggle a little bit with these other things. Will McIntyre is going to come in. It's like Arkansas has answers for every possible at-bat. They have a guy ready. And if you use Will McIntyre on Friday, you got Cody Frank the next day. And then you got Dylan Carter, Gage Wood, whoever. Lefties, righties, velo, sliders, curveballs, cutters, whatever, splitters. Arkansas's pitching staff has an answer to freaking everything, man. And I just feel like ultimately, like, we all do that as fans. We're counting the opposing pitcher's pitch count. Oh, when can we get this starter out? Oh, well, then they're going to go to the bullpen. We'll feel better about that. Against Arkansas, you don't really have that luxury because it's like when you get Hagen Smith out of the game, it's not going to get that much easier because you're going to face a very different skill set. And I think that's another thing I wanted to talk about is, like, I just can't imagine if you're a hitter on, like, say tonight, Hagen Smith throws 6 innings and you're like, all right, I'm facing this lefty, this demigod lefty throwing 97, 98. All right, I finally, about 5 innings in, now we got our timing. Oh, now they're bringing in this big boy from Bryant who's throwing 88 and everything moves 12 inches. It's a completely different task, a completely different challenge. Whereas, like, we see great pitching staffs a lot, but a lot of times it's just like a ton of dudes who throw 98 or like a ton of big-time power arms or whatever. I feel like Arkansas this is the most diverse group of skill sets I think I've ever seen in a college pitching staff. I'm sorry for making fun of your swings. You got away from the approach. Sorry, hold on. Mary, you got away from the approach. You got away from the approach a little bit. The moment got a little too big for you, but you settled in nicely. I thought about making fun of you on Twitter, but I decided not to. I decided to wait for the stream to make fun of you. Sorry about that. But hey, it happens to the best of us. Who hits the first home run this series? Tyler G wants to know. Let's go with Kendall Diggs. Kendall Diggs is going to hit at least 2 home runs this weekend. Casey Humphreys dropped a link to the Discord. If you follow me on Twitter, Casey Humphreys, at @EllisAndrew_, which I hate that at. But if you follow me on Twitter, if you want to just look it up, I tweeted out a link literally on this show. So go check that out. Yes. Christian, by the way, were you listening earlier when I was referencing our trip to Omaha? I was referencing our stuff, but shout out to Christian, who is about to be a father of 2. So shout out to him. Anyways, Cops was automatic. Miss him 2 once a beast. Really appreciate that. Cops. Kevin Cops, one of the coolest. I never thought I would see an Arkansas pitcher as good as Kevin Cops. And I texted my dad, Tony Ellis, who I don't think is listening to this, but I texted my dad after like 2 weeks, and I was like, I think Hagen Smith might be better than Kevin Cops, which is crazy because in the moment we all were like, we all kind of knew we're never going to see this again. But hey, they're very different, Kevin Cops and Hagen Smith. We don't have to sit here and do a comparison thing, but it's just crazy that Hagen is pitching at a level anywhere close to that or comparable. It's been really fun, man. Arkansas, that's one thing Arkansas is going to do is have a Golden Spikes candidate every third year or so. Also, I just want to give a little shout out to Matt Hobbs. I don't understand. One, this year's pitching staff will probably, I haven't heard a ton of people talking about Matt Hobbs lately because I feel like everybody knows this pitching staff is elite. But I don't understand how you watch people like Kevin Cops or like Isaiah Campbell or Hagen Smith or all these guys who have just turned into monsters after working with Matt Hobbs. I don't understand how you can watch this and be like, I don't get it with Matt Hobbs. Because I know there were a lot of people, maybe not now, but coming into the season who always had stuff to say about Matt Hobbs. And I just don't understand it, man. How do you see some of these arms that Arkansas is able to produce? And Hagen Smith was a really talented guy coming in. It's not like he was a no-name coming out of high school. He was very highly touted. But he's clearly turned into a little bit, he's just leveled up each year. I think that's a testament to just what Matt Hobbs has been able to do. I mean, Will McIntyre, he's turned Will McIntyre into a freaking Kevin Cops 2.0. This is, it's tough to see. Flying Blind wants to know, do you think we could see Holt at DH ever? I know Wagner's been hitting lately, but I'd love Peyton's bat in the lineup. I think there is a chance you see Peyton Holt at DH, but I think it's dependent on Nolan Souza getting starts at third, weirdly enough, which I think could happen. especially against righties. Or I guess maybe, I don't know, maybe the lefties is the time they would do it. I don't know. I think there's definitely a chance you could see Peyton Holt at DH, but I do want to make it extremely clear. Nolan Souza has to be in the lineup every day. We can talk about Spraglot or Edmondson, Lovich, Holt, whatever, but, Souza's got to be in the lineup every day. So if Souza's at third, sure. But if it comes down to whether it's like Holt or Souza, maybe against a lefty, you would maybe throw him a start. But I just think at this point, you got to let Nolan Souza play every day. He's kind of earned that right. S. Ingles wants to know, did something happen to Dietz? Kind of. Yeah, a little bit. So for, just to catch everyone up to speed on the situation, Hunter Dietz, true freshman, really talented lefty. So he made his season debut against LSU through, I guess, 0.2 innings, got 2 outs, got a big strikeout, faced like the heart of the LSU lineup. So and it was a high leverage situation. It was a 7-5 game. It was nice, like, to see him out there in that situation, because that's the kind of role they could see him pitching for Arkansas down the stretch. Kind of that setup, get you, that bridge to get you to the closing situation in the games. Hunter Dietz, so was hurt going into the year. They finally makes his debut 2 weeks ago. They didn't have him on the roster for Ole Miss, had some soreness, and they kept him off. And it's just they have a lot of guys that they're trying to keep on this roster. I don't envy those coaches having to make that decision. But then Dietz pitched on Tuesday, I believe it was, got 1 out, walked the guy, and then had to leave the game after the trainer came and talked to him because he was experiencing some more soreness. DVH said the X-ray was negative on Wednesday, and he said there was going to be an MRI. We have not heard anything from that MRI, so I'm gonna assume that no news is good news on that front. No word yet on if he'll be on the 27-man roster. DVH actually even said they're gonna bring as many people as they can, and then they're gonna wait until like the last minute to turn in that 27-man roster, because I'm not gonna sit here and go through the full 27 now, but if you just go look at the roster and you start counting in your head of like, okay, this guy should be on the roster this weekend, you'll get to 25, 26 real quick. And you'll start having to make some decisions. You'll realize, damn, this coaching staff has to tell Dylan Carter he's not traveling. They have to tell Jason Jones he's not. It's a really tough situation they have to do. So I don't anticipate Dietz will be on the roster this weekend. But ultimately, even if it's not a huge issue, it's just some occasional soreness, I think they're going to slow play it with him. I think they're going to slow play it with Adam Hatchman, the big lefty, who's also a true freshman that had surgery last offseason and is kind of working his way back. I think they're also going to take their time with Dylan Carter, who I think DVH said is not going to be on the roster this weekend. Just because they have that luxury, they can do that with this pitching staff. They have so many options. So there's no need to try and force Hunter Dietz into action when he's not quite ready. I think he's still they're trying to ramp him up. We'll see. They've got plenty of time. It's still early April. But yes, something kind of happened. So to answer your question, that was a very long-winded way, a little bit. Let's see. JT says Souza is 6'3", 220. Is that what they list him at on the roster? Because I believe it. He's big. He's a big dude. I believe that. JT Hazelwood, another Hall of Fame commenter, wants to know, who is Brad Bohannon betting on? Wonder if he has any insight on the matchup. I don't know. Might have to hit up Luke Holman's dad. They were pretty tight. They love Brad Bohannon. And that's why they left Alabama, is because he got fired for betting, in case I have not mentioned that on this show enough. Yeah, Brad Bohannon, I'd love to hear what he has, see who the sharps are on, because I know Brad Bohannon or his buddies, they might have a little insight. But I love that. Ben Devine says, fire Matt Hobbs. Hunter Dietz was sore because of Hobbs. I love that. I was tweeting out a ton of jokes like that back in the day, where like anytime a starting pitcher would get injured at any school, I'd be like, oh, another one for Matt Hobbs, because people tried to blame those on Matt Hobbs. I need everyone, just so I know that Ben's joking here because he's a jokester, a little merry prankster. I know how he is. But people love to think that like their pitching coach is ruining arms, when really everywhere in the country you look, dudes that throw 98 at 19 years old usually end up having surgery. In the MLB, all these frontline starters are having Tommy John. It's just like throwing a baseball like this is the most unnatural motion you could do for your arm. It just doesn't feel right. And if you don't believe me, pick up a rock and throw it right now as hard as you can. Your arm will be sore. It's just an unnatural throwing motion. So when you add in the fact that these 18-year-olds are throwing 3,000 RPM curveballs and throwing 97, you're bound to have a lot of surgery. I mean, Hagen Smith had surgery before he even stepped on campus at Arkansas, which is part of what makes him so valuable, is because they know he's not going to rip it again. But yeah, it's just an unnatural throwing motion. And so when you have these dudes throwing so hard, they're kind of inevitable. I know nobody wants to say that. It's inevitable. Like if your son is 16 years old and he's throwing 93, at some point in the next decade, he is going to have Tommy John surgery. Like that's just going to happen. You just got to hope it happens after he gets drafted and he makes a lot of money. So for your sake, I hope that happens. Hayden Pounds, another Hall of Fame commenter, Hall of Fame listener, says, how big does that Kentucky series look now, considering where they're at in the standings and how the coaching carousel for basketball has gone? Let's all take a moment and take a moment of laughter for Kentucky hiring Mark Pope as their head men's basketball coach. It's a tough one, man. They were talking about Scott Drew, Danny Hurley, Billy Donovan, all these big names. Oh, maybe we can get Kelvin Sampson. Who knows? And they end up going with the BYU coach. They went with a Mormon. Hilarious. But no, in all seriousness, so I guess Kentucky, as of right this second, is first place in the SEC standings because they won last night. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that because they might not have won last night. But, yeah, credit to them because they're 12-1 in SEC play, dude. Like, they just keep winning. They were on the road. They're on the road against Auburn this weekend, and they won game 1 last night. They just keep on crushing. They swept this Alabama team Arkansas is going to face this weekend. They faced them last weekend and swept them. I mean, for anybody that's been listening to the pod, like you've seen me, I've been kind of waiting on Kentucky to snap out of it and like relax a little bit. But dude, their pitching staff is really well-rounded. Their pitching staff is not as dominant in terms of like the strikeouts as Arkansas. Like they're barely averaging a strikeout an inning, but they just don't give up a ton of hard contact. And they just, they have like 9 dudes that they feel really good about. And it's really tough to beat those dudes in a series. Arkansas is going to have their handful when they go to Kentucky because you got to go on the road there and a team that has a lot of momentum. Now, that series isn't for a while. It's toward the end of the year. I believe it's like early May. But, yeah, that's going to be potentially a big one that might decide the SEC regular season title, as crazy as that sounds. Brooks Jones says, will Diggs have a breakout game this weekend? I would say yes. Now, he had 3 hits on Saturday against Ole Miss. Seemed like that was kind of him getting back on track. But, yeah, someone asked me earlier who's going to hit the first home run. I think it's going to be Diggs. And another guy who's going to have some power coming, shout out to Tanner, who says, I'm looking forward to more power coming from Hudson White. Yeah, Hudson White homered in the first game of the year in like his second at-bat and has not homered since, if I'm correct. I think I am. I talk out of my ass a lot. But, yeah, I think Hudson White still only has the 1 home run on the year, which is honestly just frankly unacceptable. Hudson White is too good to have 1 home run right now. He hit 11 last year. He hit 296 at Texas Tech. He's a legitimate offensive threat from behind the plate. He's not just your catcher who you're hoping can hit 220. Hudson White is a dude that they expected to hit in the middle of the lineup. He was as good as anyone in the fall and the spring, scrimmages. We saw Vahiva eventually we found out it was, I kept saying Hudson White and Vahiva are due. They're due for a breakout. Vahiva had his breakout. I don't think Hudson is going to be that dramatic, but I think it's only a matter of time before he gets it going to some extent. We'll see if it comes soon this weekend, but I would expect he's got to start elevating some balls a little bit. But yes, Ben Devine, I guess you showed up late, but yeah, I think Susan is my mother's name, but I think Souza could play third a lot. I think second is probably in my head where I see him playing next year. But I could see him playing some third. I think it really will just come down to who the rest of the roster looks like. If they bring in, a guy that is a all-conference second baseman or something like that, maybe you move Souza around. I could also see Souza playing first. We were just talking about guys who are like overqualified first basemen. Ben McLaughlin fits that category. Peyton Stowall fits that category. Trevor Rizal. I think I could totally see Nolan Souza getting some time there at first base. You could really talk me into various amounts of options for Nolan Souza. He's such a good athlete. But I think third base is an option. Maybe not the leading candidate though, if I'm being honest. L wants to know, are we saving Hatchman for next year? I don't know if they intentionally are. I think it just comes down to the best case scenario for him going into the year was that he could maybe pitch by early to mid-April. He didn't start as of 3 weeks ago. He hadn't even really started throwing yet. I haven't asked DVH for an update. I haven't asked her on the program or anything. I can do that later. Probably should have before I hopped on a stream and fielded questions. But we'll see. But I just think it's going to be really tough to work a guy in. We're talking about Dietz and how they're trying to work him in right now. It's going to be really hard to work in a true freshman, no matter how talented they are. Making their first appearances, first time facing college hitters would be in May as the team's trying to lock up an SEC title and still remain number one overall. At least Dietz had got to play, pitched a lot in the fall, pitched in the spring leading up to the season, or I guess he didn't pitch a ton in the spring, but he threw a lot in the fall. He got a chance to face college hitters and is now kind of working his way back. I just don't see a way in which they're throwing Adam Hatchman in there cold turkey down the stretch, but we'll see. We'll see if there's an update. Once he starts throwing, we'll have a little bit more definitive idea of his timeline and how he's looking. But for the most part, I don't think I would not be holding my breath, waiting, is this the weekend it's going to be? I just don't think it's happening in the next few weeks, and so we'll just see. Let's see. We're getting we're cracking. We're the chat has been lively here. I really appreciate you guys tuning in, and I texted my dad before, and I was like, my only fear is just nobody shows up and asks questions. JT Hazelwood says Jeff Passan has a great book about pitching arms. I'll take your word for it. But Jeff Passan, the main MLB reporter, I would say, I believe that. My boy Daniel Shee, who y'all saw on the podcast a few weeks ago, or I guess last week, Daniel Shee, I watched him. He got denied by the SID. He was trying to work on this story, talking about some of this and just how some of the pitching problems that are happening, the arm issues that are happening in the MLB, how they kind of start in college and even before that with these pitchers throwing when they're kids. And he was trying to do an interview for it and wanted to talk to the team's trainer or doctor. The SID was kind of maybe not, but good idea, go for it. But Daniel Shee at some point will have some type of story on this topic because it's really fascinating to me. And I think it's one that a lot of people know about especially if you watch baseball consistently. But casual observers might not realize it's this very bizarre thing. Imagine if in basketball, it was hey, the best athletes, the best dunkers in basketball, at some point they're just going to have to blow out their MCL. It's just going to be a thing that happens. Maybe it happens when you're 19. It's just part of it's a rite of passage almost, where it's you got to have this surgery. It's very bizarre. But I don't know. Ryan Hostetler? Is that what that says? Hostetler? Ryan Hostetler says, who do you think will eventually lock down the left field spot? I would say Will Edmondson has kind of done it to this point, unless you want to start him in center field, in which case I think you just kind of platoon Lovich, Holt, Jones. I think we haven't seen Holt in left field yet, especially not on the weekend. I honestly would love to see Jason Jones get a start in left field against a lefty if you have Edmondson starting in right field. Especially because I believe Bama is going to start a lefty on Saturday. In fact, I know they are going to start a lefty on Saturday. Sunday is TBA, but it's potentially going to be a lefty in that game too. I would love that Saturday game to see Jason Jones get a start in left field and Will Edmondson start in center. I don't necessarily know if I'm predicting that to happen, but I think ultimately though, just to get back to the question before I start rambling, I think Will Edmondson is your everyday left fielder. I think Ty Wilmsmeyer is going to end up playing every day in center just because really solid defender, really fast, really good athlete, experience. Hard to go against that. I think that's probably where they'll end up settling. Let's see. Flying Blonde says to start 6 innings and close 3 in a must-win game. Would you rather have Hagen and Mack or Wicklander and Cops? I think I'm going to go Hagen and Mack, but only for this reason. The 6 innings part is a very large chunk of the game. And I just think Hagen is better than Patrick Wicklander. And I think it's, Patrick Wicklander was awesome his junior year. Really put together an awesome year. All SEC. I think he maybe was on a couple All-American lists. Huge fan of Patrick Wicklander as a person, pitcher, follows me on Twitter, so shout out to him. He might be in the chat. Who knows? I think I just got to go with Hagen because I think there's a pretty big gap between Hagen and Wicklander, if I'm just being honest. I mean, one's going to go top 10 in the draft. One went in the 7th, 8th round. I think there's a big gap between Will McIntyre and Kevin Kopps, to be fair. So just so y'all don't think I'm sunshine pumping for the current team. I think Kopps is substantially better than Will McIntyre, just frankly. Love Will McIntyre, but I think Kevin Kopps is just a different level. But I just think for those 6 innings, especially depending on who you're playing, you really want to get the really good start. Now, obviously, you got to close the game, but it's not like you don't trust Will McIntyre to close out 3 innings. I think I would probably lean that, but I don't know. That's a really good exercise that I'm probably going to be thinking about all weekend. So I appreciate you bringing. That's the kind of stuff we like to bring to the chat. Appreciate that. Flying blind. We got confirmation that Kentucky did win. Very good. Some more comments on pitching injuries. Let's see what Kingsley has a comment. He says, "Call me crazy." See what I did there, but I think Pope works. Maybe not immediately, but he's not bad at all. The best part of it is seeing Kentucky fans eat the whole humble pie. Yeah, Kingsley, I'm with you. We're talking about basketball again here for a second, so we're getting off track. Sorry, but I did just want to kind of touch on this. Kingsley, I don't disagree wholeheartedly at all. I bet against BYU a lot this year, and I am not a rich man. So BYU, it's a good program. He did a good job there. Did choke in the tournament. That was a little tough. I definitely would not be stunned if he goes there and has a lot of success at Kentucky. But I'm with you where it's kind of like all about the big picture PR of it, where when Cal decided to leave, all the Kentucky fans were like, we didn't want Coach Cal. We were about to force him out of town anyway. We're about to hire someone way cooler than him. It's just really tough to play that card when you end up hiring Mark Pope, who, the Arkansas job was open for a week. I didn't see one single Arkansas fan be like, why don't we hire this guy? He was like low on the list. So I just think it's really fun. Yes, Addison Book, we did notice how good Kentucky is in baseball. When you get done, or I think you could scroll back. I don't know. We did talk a little bit about Kentucky baseball. Let's see. Not so much of a serious question, but do you side with Phil or Bubba on the fair foul pole discussion? I got to be honest. Phil has really talked me in to it being a fair pole. DVH himself referenced it as a fair pole the other day, and he had a little smirk on his face because he knew what he was doing. But I think Phil has kind of talked me in. I think it's a fair pole. If you hit it, it's fair. If you hit the pole, it's fair. So I don't understand how we landed on it being a foul pole. But the correct answer here is I really like whenever the foul pole is sponsored by Chick-fil-A, so they call it a foul pole, FOWL. I think that's cooler. But no, actually, I actually don't care. Like, if someone calls it a foul pole or a fair pole, I'm not going to care. But I kind of think I lean in the fair pole category. Call me crazy. Tanner wants to know, is it possible for the whole team to get the Jwoo Cho sunglasses? Would be absolutely hilarious. I guess I'm not really familiar with his sunglasses. Like, I've seen Jwoo on on TV and in the dugout plenty. I guess I didn't realize he had sunglasses. Was he wearing sunglasses the last time they showed him? We'll go with it. Sure. Yeah. JT Hazelwood says, bring back spider tack. Guys throwing the ball as hard as they can for 5 innings instead of pitching 75 to 80% of the whole game. Yeah, I don't hate that. Honestly, JT, I'm wondering if baseball will ever evolve. Like, we've kind of gotten there a little bit now, because you think about back in the day when starters were throwing complete games regularly. Like, it was like not even a thing. You didn't go to the bullpen unless the starter sucked. I wonder if we're going to get to a point in baseball where going 6 innings is kind of rare for a starter. Like, if someone does the math and they realize that it's probably not good to have these dudes throwing 120 pitches every week, I wonder if there's going to be a future, like in 50 years, where a guy like Hagen Smith would just throw 4 innings and you'd have like 4 guys pitch every game and kind of just smaller sample sizes. Who knows? Yeah, we'll see. Ryan Hostetler says, great job on the name. You're like the first guy that got it right on the first try. Hostetler? That's really it? Hostetler? I like it. I just, when I was saying it, I didn't feel like I was saying it right. Old Mackinus says, I'm missing Jalen Battles less and less every week. Is that just because Viva Loy is really good? Because if that's what it's for, cool. But Jalen Battles I do miss a lot, though, because I mentioned Vahiva's like the coolest baseball player ever. Jalen Battles is not far down that list, dude. He is a cool cat. Just watching him do everything, watching him like walk around, hit BP, like take infield. I'll tell you what, when Jalen Battles was at Arkansas, that was one of the best things. Like, if y'all can get in a time machine and go back, getting there early, like an hour before first pitch, and really watching the team do their in and out, watching Jalen Battles just operate on a day-to-day basis, one of the most enjoyable things I've ever seen in my career, dude. Like, he's so fun to watch field. And you don't say that often about fielders, especially when I'm talking about not even game action. But just watching that dude every day, how smooth he is, how quick he does everything, dude's a stud. But Viva Loy, like I said Nolan Souza is Robert Moore on steroids. Viva Loy is low-key Jalen Battles on steroids a little bit. But it is. Brooks Jones wants to know, which game are we most likely to lose this weekend, if any? I'll go game 3. I don't know. I'm just a complete guess. Game 3. We'll go game 3. Mason Molina, I feel like, is going to bounce back with a really good start. Brady Tigert, I thought, threw the ball really well last weekend. He's pitching in game 3 against Bama's TBA. But, okay, here's why I'm going with this. This is a long-winded, stupid answer here. This is my long, stupid answer here. But anyways, Brady Tigert, I think what's the situation I described earlier, where like Arkansas has a game where they win like 14-3 and Bama just kind of punts on that. I could see that happening in either of the first 2 games. Like maybe Hagen pitches tonight and Arkansas's up 7-1 in the 5th inning. So then Bama just kind of throws out a guy that sucks. And so they kind of save arms. I could see Bama being down 2-0 in the series going into game 3 and still having some of their arms available. And then maybe just kind of going all in, because it's gonna be TBA. So whoever's starting that day for Bama is gonna have a short leash, I would imagine. If it's the freshman they've been starting, he'll definitely have a short leash. Yeah, but I don't know. I think that's gonna be, maybe the best path to victory. But I gotta be honest. I was talking about Ben Hess a lot, Alabama's ace, who's gonna start tonight. He is way better than his numbers indicate. So call me insane. This game is a sneaky one for Arkansas. I really do. I think Ben Hess is gonna give them some trouble. And if he doesn't, I'm going to delete this part from the stream. Crazerback Dan says, did I hear that Hagen Smith is not starting tonight due to sore arm? If you heard it, you heard it incorrectly, because that is not a thing that is happening. Hagen Smith is scheduled to throw tonight, and I look forward to watching him throw. Everybody should be looking forward to watching Hagen Smith throw. Daniel, she wants to know, where was my invite? Daniel, I hope you got in here in time and for me to reference you and your awesome story you got coming up. But yeah, I don't know, Daniel. I invited you to come watch UFC 300 with us tomorrow night, so you better do that at least. My boy Curtis says, Andrew, when will you run out of gas here? The lads are hungry. Not out of gas, but I do probably need to get out of here just so everyone can get locked in for Alabama. But we're having a good time, man. This ended up being way more productive than I thought. MB says, fair poll all day. Can you rank our final 6 series by level of intrigue? So we're going top of my head here. So you got Bama, South Carolina, Florida. This is not a ranking. I'm just thinking of them. Florida, Kentucky, Mississippi State, A&M. Those are the 6. I'm going to go A&M 1 at College Station. That's going to be fascinating. I think that's the best team in the SEC, not named Arkansas. I look forward to watching that one. That one's going to be a banger. Crowds are going to be crazy. Florida number 2, because that's going to be here in Arkansas. The crowd's going to be going crazy. The weather should be great. Florida's obviously a team that just puts asses in seats. I look forward to that one a lot. I'll go them 2. Kentucky 3, just for the reasons we talked about earlier. They're really good. Mississippi State 4. Bama 5, South Carolina 6. No, South Carolina 5, Bama 6. All right, let's rapid fire some of these last ones, and then we will get out here. Let's see. Have they settled on who the catcher is going to be long-term? It's Hudson White for the most part. I mean, I love Ryder Helfrich. I think Ryder Helfrich, it's going to be funny in years, like in 10 years when we look back at this team, and we'll be like, oh yeah, Ryder Helfrich was on that team, because he's going to be in the big leagues by this point, and he's going to be making a ton of he's going to be a big time. He's going to have an awesome Razorback career, an awesome pro career. I think it's going to be kind of funny looking back, but I still think Hudson White has done a really good job defensively, getting a lot better and kind of, relieving all of our concern in that regard, because I was definitely a little concerned early in the year, especially with how he caught last year. But I think he's going to get it going here offensively soon. And I think for the most part, Ryder is a really talented player, but he hasn't been hitting super consistently either. So I just think until further notice, Hudson White is your everyday catcher, but I expect Ryder will probably get a start this weekend and maybe 1 per week for the rest. Why did you steal Smalls' hat and paint it orange? Smalls, is that Smalls as in like the as in the Smalls from like Sandlot. This hat actually sucks, to be honest with you. I love Big Chicken. I really do. I was apparently the first person to buy a Big Chicken hat. Whenever I asked them to buy this, they were blown away. But it's like it's just the angle of it is weird. It's kind of funky. But I was actually, weirdly enough, I left the house without a hat today, and this happened to be in my car. But I was joking with John earlier. He has a buddy who really did not like seeing me without a hat on, I guess that was Monday's podcast. Yeah. Ashley wants to know, should Helfrich be seeing more game time? I think, he's been getting more playing time than Roland. He's been getting one start a weekend the last couple weekends. I think that should probably continue. You don't want to force anything like with all these guys. I think they're playing him the right amount. He didn't have a great night Tuesday, but I expect he gets a start this weekend. I think starting him one game a weekend until further notice is the way to go about it. But it's all good. Let's see. Cole the Bowler says, come on, Curtis. We love us some Andrew Ball talk. That's right. Very good stuff. Daniel Shee says, you read a story. That's the first. Go feed Curtis before he has more reasons to replace me with you. Okay. Fair enough. But anyways, guys, this was a very productive, very fun edition of the Baumbastic Podcast. I don't know if y'all like this, but I think I'm going to do this more often. This was a lot of fun. Maybe we'll just do this every weekend before the series. Who knows? Maybe we'll start doing this post-series. I don't know. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. This was a lot of fun. And like I said before, if you have not already, you're watching this on the main Natty State YouTube channel, go right now and subscribe to the Baumbastic YouTube channel, which is in the description of this video. And if you just search it, the Baumbastic Podcast, you should be able to find it. Make sure everyone is aware of the little switcheroo we did here. We're doing this one on the main Natty State channel, but typically I post my episodes on the Baumbastic YouTube. And if we can build that channel up enough, maybe we won't have to do the back and forth. Maybe we can just go live there. But once again, guys, really appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you're subscribed to that podcast on wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to our main Natty State YouTube channel that you're watching this on now. And make sure you're following us on all our social medias because we've been crushing it lately. And go, you want to follow along for all the fun stuff that's been going on. So hope you guys get a chance to watch some ball this weekend. We will be back Sunday, Monday, who knows. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you.